Welcome, fans of flip clocks. We've got a clock that was sent in by someone to let me do a restoration on, and that someone is producer Lucie Faulknor with Serendipity Films. Lucie Faulknor produced and researched Fauhberg Treme, the Untold Story of Black New Orleans. Lucie is also the producer for the in-progress documentary Free For All inside the public library. Free For All will explore the history, spirit, and challenges of the Free Public Library in the United States. It seeks to inspire, entertain, and spark dialogue and engagement as communities debate the future of their public libraries. Lucie Faulknor is also a flip clock fan. So here we have Lucie's clock in Flip Clock Fan Studios. We're going to take a look at it to see what the problems are. Some of them are obvious. The clock is older. It's got some changes in it. It's a little dirty. That's what you expect with a vintage clock. It is a Copal Calson 101 made in Japan. A classic historical clock, one of Japan's first flip clocks. This is a Sunbeam branded Copal 101. We've energized it, and I cannot see the light glowing in there. It's supposed to have an orange neon glow, and the sticker on top says lighted dial, but it is not currently, and I don't think the clock is running either. What we have to do is dig into it and find out what's wrong with it. It's been a while since I had one of these, so we'll have to be careful. These two screws will need to come out first. They're little machine type screws. Simple enough. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these screws. This is the clock mechanism screws. I'm not going to take them out yet. The way to release this is not to put something in there and pry it. I'm pushing down with my thumb. It helps to release the tabs, and that just gives me something to grip. So please don't put anything in there and try to pry. These Calson 101s have an interesting front piece. They have metal springs. Not really a spring, but a spring-like material that holds the front piece in. And this is metal, and this is glass. So these early clocks were well made. There's your Sunbeam. Very good materials. And later, a lot of clocks went to a little cheaper materials. We see a nice little compact mechanism. It just takes up all the space. The neon glow bulb's blackened. The motor does not spin freely. We're going to have to replace that bulb. The clock flips well. Now I had to check this knob here to make sure it didn't have a screw in it. It's got a metal band around the plastic. There it starts to move. It's really tough. You can tell this hasn't been taken apart. We'll get this off here in a second. You can see several things we're going to have to fix. We're going to clean the clock up. We're going to fix that motor, and we're going to get a working light going on. So we've plugged it in again. The light did come on a little bit. You can see that motor wants to turn. We've got a little work to do. We're going to show you how that's done. Alright, we've got the clock out, and you can see the light does glow, but that's surely not enough to be seen. This case here, we don't have to take that cord out. You can just pull that cord straight through and clean it and do whatever you want to instead of trying to take everything apart. The knob came off. It was a little bit rusted in a little spot, and that just made it stick a little bit. The clock's in relatively good shape, but we've got it energized, and you can see it wants to turn, but it's really having a struggle there. What you need to ungunk this motor is some kind of solvent, and we're going to use WD-40 as our solvent. You can use alcohol, but I've found that this does a really good job. It'll actually make the motor work right away, And for some people, this is all they do. But after we get this motor freed up, and you can see it's already spinning better, we'll add another lubricant. We'll do that here in a little bit. So all I have to do is plug it in and it starts right up. And when I touch it and release it, that shows me that it's really running well. So we'll turn our attention to the rest of the clock here. We've got the bulb that is glowing, but it's going to need to be replaced. Those things last for years and years, and they just slowly fade away. They hardly ever just straight up burn out. In looking at this, I think the best way to replace it is going to go ahead and use one of my new replacements that I've assembled instead of trying to replace that bulb. And by the way, if you mess with that bulb, realize that's full mains current coming through there. You can get killed from touching that if the clock is on. So instead of trying to replace the bulb as it sits, it's just going to be easier, cleaner, and better to go ahead and replace the whole assembly. Now here we've got the bulb replaced, and the motor comes on exactly in time with the bulb, so we know the motor's working well now. And that's the same length that'll actually fit in the clock just fine. Lighted dial. I hate stickers on flip clocks. It is one of my pet peeves that they're still on there. I don't think it adds anything to the clock, so the clock's actually in good shape. It is yellowed from light. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. It needs to be cleaned up, but it's in really good shape. The glass, it has the Sunbeam logo, and on the back side, that's where they've put it on there. And I've got to tell you, if you get that wet, it'll wipe right off, and we want to try to preserve that. Now, what's going on here is I got permission from the owner of this clock to remove that lighted dial sticker. And there you go. That is not paper left over. That is the actual color of the clock. It just confirms that the yellowing, these old plastics, is from UV light or sunlight or whatever, and not from heat. So we're going to show you how to get this back to a better state, more closer to its original color. But before we do that, we'll go ahead and get this clock lubricated with something that's going to last. What I've been using lately is motor oil, believe it or not. Ultimate Full Synthetic Motor Oil. It's a long-lasting lubricant. It's not going to gunk up on us. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen me do this multiple times by now, but we'll go ahead and review it anyway. I'm going to take this dropper and drop a drop behind this wheel here. It's the only place that needs to be lubricated. It's that axle. Now it's dropping down to the front, but I'm trying to get it to drop down behind too. What's going on in the front there is not necessary. It needs to be, the excess needs to be taken off. So here's the whitening process. We cover this stuff with Salon Care Cream Developer, the same stuff they bleach hair with, believe it or not. It's the hydrogen peroxide in there that's going to get rid of that yellowing. So here we are. This is the clock with its new bulb, and there it is, bright and shiny the way it was meant to be. The clock turned out very well. The clock's working, the light's working. Really nice clock, made in Japan. A classic clock. I've got one. Any collector, I think, would love to have this. I like the black and the white look too. It's really a beautiful clock. We were able to preserve the Sunbeam logo, which is actually kind of difficult. And we really appreciate Lucie for sending in the clock. Look in the description below for links to various things that she's involved in. So here we have the clock before and after. Turned out great. Thanks for taking the time.
when you get the time, come visit us at flipclockfans.com.